Dawn rose on a reach that had stopped pretending it could stay clean. Margaery brought the ruined scorpion into the great hall like a corpse dragged into court. The weapon's limb was blackened, iron bands warped, chain links snapped and clinging with river weed. It stank faintly of smoke and wet ash. The smell of an enemy's plan burned before it could bloom. The Reach Lords gathered again, faces grim now, less whispering, more hard-eyed calculation. Fear had shifted. It no longer clustered around the dragon. It clustered around the fact that everyone wanted the dragon. King's Landing builds these, Margaery said, voice steady. Oldtown reaches for them. The Faith waves torches. And some among you, her gaze flicked sharp, consider running to whichever hand promises you the softest chain. No one spoke. Silence was heavy. Olenna's cane tapped once above, approving. Margaery continued, voice lowering. We intercepted this barge on the Mander, she said. Not by luck, by watching, by planning, by refusing to be passive while others decide our fate. Randyll Tarly stepped forward, voice hard. This is what the crown brings, he said. Iron and chain and poison flame, not mercy. Paxter Redwyne's gaze was cold. And this is what Oldtown brings, he said. A polite smile and a knife behind it. Mathis Rowan's voice was smooth, but his eyes were sharp. Then we must decide, he murmured, who the Reach belongs to. Margaery's gaze swept them. It belongs to the Reach, she said simply. Not to a boy king, not to Oldtown's towers, not to Septons who have never fed you. To you, to your people. Jon stood in shadow near the platform, Thornfyre hidden beneath cloak, heat pressing into his ribs like a secret that had become a threat. He felt the hatchling's restlessness, the urge to be seen again, to answer fear with flame. He forced it down with steady breath. Margaery's eyes met Jon's for a heartbeat. Then she turned back to the hall. We are going to be hunted, she said. So we will become hunters. We will keep our roads open. We will break their scorpions before they reach our skies. We will choke their collectors before they reach our doors. A murmur of approval rippled, grim, hungry. And if they come with armies? A lord asked, voice tight. Margaery's smile was small and cold. Then they will learn, she said, that the Reach does not burn quietly. Olenna's voice cracked down, sharp as iron. And if any of you sell our fire, she added, I will have you hanged so high even the Hightower will feel jealous. Some nervous laughter flickered. It did not ease the tension. It simply gave it shape. Jon felt the future tightening like a noose and a bowstring at once. Cersei's scorpions, Oldtown's captains, faith torches, traitors inside walls. Thornfyre's wings growing broader every day. Highgarden could not hide forever, could only choose what it would become when hiding ended. Margaery's voice carried, final. Prepare your men, she ordered. Prepare your wagons. Prepare your ships. Winter and war are coming together, and the Reach will not be the realm's victim. We will be its spine. The hall answered with steel-faced nods, with hands gripping sword hilts, with fear turning into resolve. And somewhere beneath Jon's cloak, Thornfyre clicked its tongue softly, as if tasting that resolve and deciding it liked the sound. Highgarden's war room had begun to smell like smoke even when no fire burned. It was not the scent of ash in the air. It was the scent of minds turning. Too fast, too hot, too relentlessly, until every breath tasted like strategy. Margaery sat at the table with her hands folded, not clasped, because clasped hands betrayed strain. Olenna stood behind her chair, cane planted, gaze merciless. Randyll Tarly's jaw was a stone line. Paxter Redwyne's fingers rested on a goblet he did not drink from. Mathis Rowan watched everyone in the room as if counting how many heartbeats they had left before betrayal chose a body. Orwyn, Candlehand, sat chained near the wall with ink and parchment laid out like offerings. His scarred hands hovered over the quill, eager and hateful, the way a starving man hovered over bread. Jon stood near the door with Ghost, silent. Thornfyre was not here. Thornfyre stayed in a hidden chamber where incense could not find him. Jon could feel the hatchling anyway, like heat behind a closed door, like a pulse waiting for his voice. Margaery spoke without raising her voice. "They have scorpions," she said. "They have wildfire. They have faith mouths and Oldtown hands. What they do not have is control of our story." Randyll snorted. "Story doesn't stop bolts," he said.
"No," Margaery replied.
"But story decides who aims bolts with confidence and who aims them with shaking hands." Olenna's cane tapped once. "And it decides whether the reach bleeds together or bleeds itself dry," she snapped. Mathis Rowan's tone was mild. "We have shown the lords the scorpion," he said. "We have shown them the barge. Fear has shifted, but fear is fickle. It needs feeding." Paxter Redwyne leaned forward. "We feed it with proof," he said. "Proof that King's Landing hunts not only the dragon, but the Reach's bread." Margaery's eyes flicked to Orwyn. "Then he writes," she said. Orwyn's mouth twisted. "Again," he rasped, as if offended by being useful to those he wanted to ruin. Jon's voice entered quietly. "He writes to Qyburn," Jon said, "and he writes to Oldtown." Randall's gaze sharpened. "Both?" he asked. "Yes," Margaery replied. "We split their attention. We make lions think the rose steps out, and we make towers think the fire moves by river. We cannot stop them hunting. We can choose which prey they chase." Olenna's smile was thin. "And we can choose where the trap closes," she added. Loras was not at the table. Loras waited outside, because his rage was useful with steel, not with ink. Jon could still hear the echo of it in the way the corridor guards stood too straight. Margaery slid a sealed parchment case toward Jon. "This goes with you," she said softly, eyes never leaving his face. "If the road turns ugly, you burn it. No one reads it." Jon nodded once, taking it. It felt heavier than paper deserved. Olenna pointed her cane at Orwyn. "Right?" she snapped. "And if you try to be clever, I'll let Ghost decide which parts of you remain attached." Ghost's ears twitched, as if listening to the idea. Orwyn dipped his quill with trembling precision. He began to write, and the room listened to the scratch of ink like it was the sound of a knife being sharpened. Outside, Highgarden kept singing its fountain songs. Inside, the Reach decided to move first. In King's Landing, paper traveled faster than armies. Cersei broke the seal with a nail and smiled before she even read, because she loved the act of opening things. Doors, ribs, kingdoms. Qyburn stood beside her, hands folded, eyes bright with the patient hunger of a man who thought cruelty was curiosity in noble clothing. Tywin sat across the table, still as carved stone, watching her like he watched all disasters that wore the Lannister name. Cersei's eyes moved across Orwyn's ink. Her smile widened, then sharpened into something colder. "She steps out," Cersei murmured. "Our Rose." Tywin's voice was flat. "You assume it is true." Cersei lifted her gaze. "I assume she thinks she can outplay me," she said. "And I assume I can punish her for it." Qyburn's mouth curved faintly. "The letter claims Lady Margaery will inspect the river road near Bitterbridge," he said softly. "A show of strength, a show of mercy, a perfect place for collectors to become executioners." Tywin's eyes narrowed. "Do not burn the Reach," he warned. "We need their bread." Cersei's laugh was quiet and cruel. "Who said anything about burning?" she asked. "We take her. We take the wolf. We take the hatchling if he follows. And then we negotiate." "Negotiate?" Tywin echoed, and the word sounded like a contempt he swallowed. Qyburn set an iron bolt on the table, barbed, heavy. A chain coiled behind it like a sleeping snake. "If the dragon appears," he murmured, "we do not need to kill it. We need to pin it." Cersei's eyes glittered. "Pin it," she repeated, savoring the image. "Like a trophy, like proof that the world belongs to lions." Tywin's gaze did not move from the bolt. "A pinned dragon is still dangerous," he said. "Everything I own is dangerous," Cersei replied. "That is why it is mine." She pushed the letter toward Qyburn. "Send the team," she ordered. Not too many. Too many looks like fear. Bring scorpion wagons. Bring wildfire only if you must. And bring a priest's robe. People hesitate when holiness tells them to. Qyburn inclined his head, delighted. As you wish, he murmured. Tywin's voice cut through, calm as a knife. If this is a trap. Cersei's smile turned razor-thin. Then we spring it and take what crawls out, she said. The Reach thinks it has learned to hunt. Let it learn what it means to be hunted by lions. Outside the Red Keep, King's Landing rotted and buzzed. Inside, Cersei folded the letter like a promise and set it beside the chain bolt. In her mind, Margaery Tyrell was already walking into a net. Oldtown read the same winds and pretended they were its own. Lord Leyton Hightower stood at a tall window in his tower, looking down on the city like a man watching ants build a world he refused to walk in. His hair was grayer than songs ever admitted. His face lined with a caution that had been mistaken for wisdom for too long. Beside him stood Ser Baelor Hightower, bright-eyed and tense, the kind of man who believed loyalty meant action and action meant he should be the one holding the prize. A Septon envoy lingered near the door with silver star in hand. A Citadel courier stood stiffly, chain glinting, eyes darting to the letter on the table as if it might burn his pupils. Leyton turned slowly. Highgarden is bleeding, he said, and bleeding attracts sharks. Baelor's jaw clenched. Highgarden is hiding a dragon, he said flatly, and dragons attract kingdoms. The Septon's voice was solemn. The Seven demand judgment, he intoned, if it is abomination. Leyton lifted a hand, silencing him without effort. The Seven demand many things, he said. They do not always get them. The courier swallowed. The Citadel advises caution, he began, as if reading from a prayer. Dragons are not your property, Baelor snapped, and the courier flinched. Leyton's gaze slid to the sealed letter on the table. Margaery's invitation dressed in reluctance. Olenna's lie perfumed to smell like weakness. They want us to reach, Leyton said softly. They want us to move. Baelor leaned forward, unable to contain himself. Then we do, he said, before King's Landing pins it, before the faith burns it. Oldtown should hold it. Oldtown should decide whether it lives. And if Highgarden refuses? The Septon pressed. Baelor's eyes flashed. Then we take it, he said, and the words came too easily, revealing exactly how much safe custody meant theft. Leyton's expression did not change. Taking is easy, he said. Keeping is harder. And keeping a dragon means keeping every man's hunger from tearing your city apart. The courier swallowed again. There are whispers of scorpion weapons, he said quickly, eager to sound useful. King's Landing, Qyburn. Leyton's eyes narrowed. Then the lions have decided, he murmured. Baelor's fist tightened. Then we cannot wait, he said. Send men by river. Quietly. No vanefs. We seize it in transit and bring it here before the Reach turns itself into dragon lords. Leyton stared out the window again, watching Oldtown's lights flicker along the harbor. If we move, he said slowly, we reveal ourselves. Baelor's voice was tight. We are already revealed, he snapped. Highgarden has our badge in its hands and our dead men on its floors. The Septon envoy's eyes gleamed. Then the faith will bless. Leyton's voice cut sharp. The faith will not bless theft, he said. It will bless whatever wins. That is not blessing. That is opportunism in robes. Silence fell. Then Leyton exhaled slowly, as if admitting something he hated. Send one ship, he said. Not a fleet. One. A small hand, not a fist. We see if the Reach truly moves its burden by river. Baelor nodded, grim satisfaction flashing. And if it does, he said, we take it. Leyton's eyes stayed on the harbor. And if it does not, he replied, then we learn who is truly hunting whom. Far below, bells rang in Oldtown. Somewhere in its streets, men who had never seen a dragon yet already wanted to own one began to whisper a new prayer. Not to gods, but to opportunity. Margaery did not leave Highgarden. Her carriage did. It rolled out under Tyrell colors, wheels creaking softly over wet stone, escort riders flanking with disciplined calm. Inside sat a maid dressed in green velvet with her hair braided like a lady's, veil drawn low. She trembled so hard Jon feared the veil would shake itself loose and betray the lie. Margaery watched from a shadowed window as the gate closed behind the convoy. Her face was still, but Jon saw the tension in her fingers where they gripped the sill. "They will come," she murmured. "Yes," Jon said quietly, "and they will think they're clever." Loras waited at the road's edge in plain cloak, posture rigid. He hated decoys. He hated lies that put someone else in danger for his sister's safety. But he obeyed, because Margaery's survival was the Reach's spine. Rowan riders vanished into treelines. Tarly men took positions on a ridge overlooking a narrow stretch of road where mud could swallow hooves and trees could swallow screams. Sand sacks were hidden beneath brush, ready for wildfire. Barrels of water waited not for wildfire, but for after, for smoke, for panic. Jon stood in shadow with Ghost, feeling the road's honesty again. How it narrowed, how it promised violence in its tight throat. Thornfyre was not with him. Thornfyre stayed hidden in Highgarden's belly, because one lesson had become clear. If chain bolts were built for wings, then wings did not belong on this road. Jon hated leaving the dragon behind. The bond itched like a half-healed wound, but Margaery's voice echoed in his head. If you die, the dragon becomes a banner for men who do not love him. The decoy carriage rolled into the trap zone. Silence tightened. Then Ghost's ears snapped forward. His growl started low. Hoofbeats approached. From the north, not the south. "Now," Randall's voice whispered from the ridge. A wagon rounded the bend, merchant canvas, innocuous shape. Behind it rode men in pale robes with 7-pointed stars sewn on sleeves. Septon escorts, anyone glancing quickly might have thought. But Jon saw the way they rode, too balanced, too ready. He saw the way the wagon's canvas sat too high, the way weight shifted beneath it like a weapon. Scorpion. Loras's hand tightened on his reins. His eyes burned. "They brought it," he murmured. Jon's voice was flat. "They believed the letter," he said. The Septons raised hands as if in blessing as they approached the carriage. A rider lifted a parchment with a royal seal, smiling. The maid inside the carriage made a small, frightened sound, and then the wagon's canvas snapped back. Iron limbs unfolded. A chain bolt slid into place with a wet metallic click that made Jon's stomach drop. The collectors weren't here to negotiate. They were here to pin a myth to wood and drag it south to a lion's cage. The chain bolt screamed through rain like a thrown curse. It was aimed at the carriage door, meant to punch through wood, catch flesh, and drag the rows out kicking and gasping. The bolt struck, splintering the panel, chain snapping taut with a brutal jerk. The carriage lurched sideways, wheels digging into mud. The maid inside screamed. That scream broke the world open. Rowan riders surged from treelines, horses crashing into the collector's flank. Tarly archers loosed arrows from the ridge in a disciplined rain. Thunk, 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 dropping 2 septons before their smiles could turn into screams. Loras charged like a blade thrown by rage. His sword flashed, cutting down the first man who stepped toward the carriage with a second chain bolt. The man's robe flew open, revealing leather armor beneath. Holiness spilled out onto mud and died there. Jon ran forward with long claw drawn, boots slipping, breath harsh. He reached the scorpion wagon as another collector tried to swing the weapon toward the treeline, toward where the Real prize might be hiding. Jon slammed long claw into the scorpion's iron winch, jamming it. Sparks hissed. The collector snarled and swung a mace toward Jon's head. Jon ducked and drove his shoulder into the man's ribs, sending him stumbling back into the wagon's wheel. Ghost hit the man's ankle and ripped him down. The scorpion crew panicked. One reached for a small glass vial. Green glow inside. Sand! Jon roared, voice splitting through battle. A Tarly man hurled a sack. It struck the collector's arm hard enough to make the vial fly. It shattered in the mud, and sand poured over the green flame before it could crawl. The collectors screamed anyway. Fear had replaced training. Loras dragged the carriage chain bolt-free with brute strength, teeth clenched, hands bleeding where lynx tore skin. He wrenched the door open and hauled the maid out. "You're alive," he snapped, voice shaking. She sobbed, nodding, clutching her torn veil. A collector saw the lady and lunged with a dagger, desperate to salvage the mission. Jon pivoted and cut him down in one clean stroke. Blood mixed with rain, turning the mud darker. The scorpion wagon tried to retreat, horses straining, wheels slipping. Randyll Tarly's men cut off the road behind, spears lowered, faces stone. The trap closed completely. Jon climbed onto the wagon bed, Longclaw raised, and drove his blade into the scorpion's wooden limb. He hacked once, twice, splintering it, ruining the mechanism. A third strike shattered the iron brace. The weapon sagged, useless. A roar rose from the collectors. Rage, fear, disbelief. They had come to take a dragon, to take a queen. Instead, they had walked into mud and steel and teeth. Jon jumped down, breath heaving. He looked toward the carriage, toward the sobbing maid, toward Loras's bloodied hands. "Margaery isn't here," Loras snarled at a pinned collector, voice wild. "You stupid." The collector's eyes widened as realization hit. He spat blood. "Then she's smarter," he rasped. Jon's gaze hardened. Yes, she was. And now King's Landing had shown its hand in daylight. They took one alive because answers were worth more than revenge. He was not a knight, not a lord, just a sergeant with hard eyes and a mouth that had been trained to repeat orders without thinking. They pinned him in the mud beside the ruined scorpion wagon, hands tied behind his back, hood ripped away. Rain ran down his face like sweat. Jon crouched beside him, Longclaw's tip resting in the mud an inch from the man's throat. Loras stood over them, breathing hard, hands still bleeding, eyes blazing. Randyll Tarly approached with archers at his back, expression like stone. Ghost sat nearby, blood on his muzzle, calm now that prey had stopped moving. "Who sent you?" Jon asked. The sergeant bared his teeth. "The crown," he spat. Loras's boot pressed into his ribs. "Names," Loras snarled. The sergeant coughed, blood on his lip. "Qyburn," he rasped. "Qyburn's men, paid in gold and promises. Said, bring the rose, bring the wolf if we can, bring the beast if it shows." Jon's jaw tightened. "Beast," he repeated, voice cold. The sergeant's eyes flicked to Ghost, then away quickly. "Dragon," he corrected reluctantly, fear leaking through bravado. Randyll's gaze sharpened. "How many wagons like this?" he demanded. The sergeant hesitated. Randyll gestured, and an archer lifted his bow slightly. Not threatening to shoot, just reminding the man that death was easy. "4," the sergeant whispered. "Maybe 5. Split, river and road. They said Oldtown might try too, so we had to move fast." Oldtown. Jon felt the web tighten. Loras's voice shook with rage. "And Margaery?" he hissed. "Where were you taking her?" The sergeant swallowed. "South," he whispered. "To a river port, to a ship. They said, the queen wants her alive, wants her humbled." Jon's fingers curled in the mud. He pictured Margaery in chains on a ship, Cersei's smile waiting, and something hot and vicious flared behind his ribs. Randyll's voice was flat. "You brought wildfire," he said. The sergeant's eyes darted. "Only if needed," he whispered. "Orders were, don't burn the reach, just scare it." Loras barked a harsh laugh. "Scare it," he spat, "by dragging women out of carriages with chain bolts." The sergeant's mouth tightened. "It's war," he muttered. Jon leaned closer, voice low enough to be intimate. "War is armies," Jon said. "This is theft." The sergeant's eyes flickered. Jon stood, turning to Randyll. "We take him back," Jon said. "He rides in chains. He speaks again in a cellar." Randyll nodded once. "And we send his wagon to Highgarden. he said. "Let every lord see what the crown brings." Loras glanced toward the decoy maid, now wrapped in a blanket, shivering. His fury softened for a heartbeat into grim gratitude. "You did well," he told her, voice rough. She nodded, sobbing quietly. Torches were lit as evening fell. The ruined scorpion sat in the mud like a dead insect. Limbs snapped, chain coiled uselessly. Jon stared at it and felt the truth harden. They were past whispers, past tests, past gentle games. Now the enemy was coming with iron, and soon fire would have to answer. Highgarden greeted them with silence first. Torches lined the gate. Lords lingered in cloaks, pretending to be there by coincidence. Servants pressed into shadows, eyes wide. The castle smelled of roses and incense and something else now. Anticipation sharpened into fear. Margaery stood beneath the arch with Olenna at her side, both wrapped in green and gold like armor. Her face did not change when she saw the destroyed scorpion wagon being dragged in on ropes, its limbs broken, its chain bolts clattering like dead snakes. But Jon saw her eyes sharpen, saw the cold satisfaction flicker. Proof was a weapon too. Loras rode in behind the wagon, hands wrapped in bloodied cloth, face pale with rage and exhaustion. Ghost trotted ahead, silent, red eyes scanning the crowd. Jon dismounted and stepped toward Margaery. For a heartbeat, the world narrowed to her face. "They came," she said softly. Jon nodded. "They believed the letter," he replied. "They brought scorpions and chain bolts. They tried to take you." Margaery's mouth tightened. "And they failed," she said, not a question. "They failed," Jon confirmed. Olenna's cane tapped once. "Good," she snapped. "Let the Lord see what royal authority looks like when it crawls." Margaery's gaze slid to the chained sergeant being dragged from a horse. The man lifted his head, saw the lady he thought he'd stolen, and went pale. "You," Margaery said quietly. The sergeant swallowed. "My lady," he rasped, trying to find politeness in a throat full of fear. Margaery's eyes were cold. "Tell the truth in my cellar," she said, "or choke on your lies in it." Guards hauled him away. Lords murmured as they stared at the wagon. Some looked sick, some looked angry, some looked dangerously excited. Margaery turned, voice lifting just enough to carry. "This is what the Iron Throne brings to the Reach," she said. "Not peace, not law, chains." Randall Tarley's voice carried from behind, hard. "And any man who offers to secure our safety is offering the same chain with a prettier ribbon," he said. Eyes flicked toward the Hightower men lingering at the edge of the crowd. The captain's face stayed carefully blank. Olenna smiled thinly. "We're all learning," she murmured. Margaery's gaze returned to Jon, softer for a heartbeat. One crack in the armor. "You came back," she whispered. Jon's throat tightened. "I said I would," he replied. Margaery nodded once, as if taking that vow and storing it again. Then she turned back toward the hall, voice sharpening. "Bring the wagon inside," she ordered. "I want it displayed by dawn. I want every lord to see the bolts meant to pin wings. I want every servant to know what the crown's mercy looks like." Olenna's cane tapped, satisfied. "And then," she said softly, "we decide what to do with Oldtown's hands." Jon followed Margaery into the castle, Ghost at his heel, feeling the war's shape tightening around them like a ring. Outside the gate, night pressed close. Beyond the walls, ravens flew, and somewhere in Highgarden's depths, Thornfyre hissed softly in the dark as if sensing that iron had come hunting again. That night Jon did not go to the war room. He went to the hidden chamber where Thornfyre lay, because maps could wait but fire could not be left alone with fear in the air. The hatchling was bigger now, no longer something that could be mistaken for a strange lizard by fools who wanted to believe. Thornfyre's wings twitched even in sleep, membranes shifting like a dream of sky. Smoke curled faintly from its nostrils with each slow breath, as if the dragon's body could not help advertising what it was. Jon sat on the stone floor with Thornfyre curled against his chest like a living furnace. The heat was steady, intimate, strangely soothing despite the danger it represented. Thornfyre's claws hooked lightly into Jon's cloak, not tearing, just holding, as if anchoring itself to the one thing it recognized as safe. Rillin knelt nearby, murmuring under his breath. Not prayers for gods, prayers for patience, for control, for the kind of discipline fire rarely agreed to learn. Margaery stood in the doorway with a lantern, watching them in silence. The light made her eyes look darker, deeper, as if the woman who smiled for crowds was somewhere far away and only the queen remained. "They tried," she said softly. Jon did not ask who. He understood. "Yes," he replied. Margaery stepped closer, careful not to startle Thornfyre. "Chain bolts," she murmured. "They're building cages for him." Jon's jaw tightened. "I saw," he said. Thornfyre stirred at the tension in Jon's voice, gold eye cracking open briefly. It blinked, then pressed its snout into Jon's wrist and made a low, almost content sound. Margaery's breath hitched, quiet. "He loves you," she whispered. Jon's throat tightened. "He recognizes me," he corrected, though the correction felt weaker each time he said it. Rillin's voice was low. "Recognition becomes devotion," he murmured. "If the hand stays steady." Margaery's gaze flicked to Rillin. "And if the world tries to rip him away?" she asked. Rillin's eyes held something like sorrow. "Then fire becomes storm," he said. Jon looked down at Thornfyre's sleeping form and felt the truth in his bones. If the hatchling was pinned, if it was dragged, it would not die quietly. It would thrash. It would burn. It would make a tragedy into an inferno. And if Thornfyre died, if that heat went cold in Jon's arms, Jon did not know what would remain of him. Margaery crouched beside Jon, close enough that her cloak brushed his knee. She did not touch the dragon. She touched Jon's shoulder instead, light, steady. "We cannot let them separate you," she whispered. Jon swallowed. "They will try," he said. Margaery's eyes were hard. "Then we stop waiting for their next move," she said. "We strike their supply lines. We break their scorpions before they reach the reach. We make Oldtown bleed enough that it remembers it is part of this land, not above it." Olenna's voice echoed in Jon's memory. "Ambition is survival with better clothing." Jon exhaled slowly. "And if the faith rises again?" Jon asked. Margaery's mouth tightened. "Then we feed the smallfolk," she said. "And we show them who brought torches first." Thornfyre's wings twitched, as if dreaming of fire. Jon tightened his hold slightly, feeling heat press against his ribs like a vow. Outside the chamber, Highgarden's corridors murmured with fear and footsteps. Inside, Jon held the dragon and listened to its breathing, and for the first time he let himself admit the terrifying comfort in it. Fire was alive. Fire was his, and the realm would have to pry it from his hands. They broke Orwyn's pride with a single question. Not who paid you, he enjoyed that too much. They asked who else in the reach. Orwyn sat in the cellar with his wrists chained, torchlight painting his scars orange. He tried to smile. He tried to sound clever. But his eyes kept flicking toward the staircase, toward freedom he no longer owned. Margaery stood before him with a parchment list in her hand. Names Sam had compiled from captured letters, from intercepted couriers, from whispers dragged into daylight. Olenna stood beside her like judgment in old flesh. Randall watched like an execution waiting to be scheduled. Loras stood at the door, face hard, presence violent enough to make the air feel sharp. Jon did not speak at first. He watched Orwyn's hands. Those scarred fingers trembled when Margaery read the first name aloud. "Fossaway," she said softly. "A cousin who rides to Oldtown." Orwyn swallowed. "A merchant route," he rasped. "Coin moves." "Silence," Olenna snapped, and Orwyn flinched. Margaery read the second name. "A Hightower captain." Orwyn's mouth tightened. "Concern," he whispered. "Oldtowns." Randall stepped forward one pace. "And the South Wall Guard," he said. "The one who would open the postern." Orwyn's eyes darted. Jon's voice entered, low and cold. Name him, Jon said. Orwyn licked his lips. I don't. Loras took a step, sword half drawn. He did not speak. He did not have to. Orwyn's breath hitched. Hugh, he whispered. A guard named Hugh. He takes coin. He drinks too much. He thinks he's invisible. Randall's face hardened. He's dead, Randall said flatly. Not as a threat, but as a fact already decided. Margaery's gaze did not change. And the Faith Envoy? She asked. Who is feeding him coin and writs? Orwyn hesitated again, fear finally outweighing pride. A septon in Oldtown, he whispered. A man who writes to King's Landing. A man Qyburn likes. Jon's jaw clenched. Name. Orwyn's voice cracked. Septon Halys, he whispered. Olenna's cane tapped once. Good, she murmured. Now we have a thread worth pulling. Margaery set the parchment down. You will write again, she told Orwyn. To Septon Halys. You will tell him the Faith riot almost succeeded. You will tell him the dragon is moving by river. You will make him greedy and brave. Orwyn's eyes widened. You want the Faith to. I want the Faith to expose itself, Margaery said quietly. To move without masks. To show the smallfolk who is truly lighting torches. Orwyn's mouth twisted. And if I refuse? Jon stepped closer, voice soft as winter. Then you die, Jon said. And I replace you with another mouth. There are always other mouths. Orwyn stared at Jon, hate burning. You're learning, he whispered. Jon's eyes were flat. I had to, he said. Margaery's voice was calm. Right, she ordered again. And Orwyn, the spider who had sold secrets like coin, bent over parchment and began to write the message that would tighten the net around his former allies. Because in Highgarden now, even ink had teeth. That night, Thornfyre rose into the sky where no wall could follow. It began as a restlessness Jon felt in his bones before he saw it in the hatchling's wings. Thornfyre paced its will cradle in the hidden chamber, clicking its tongue, smoke curling with each breath. The dragon tasted the air and found it full of iron and incense and fear. Too thick, too loud, too confining. Jon brought Thornfyre up through secret passages to the balcony above the gardens. Not to show him off, but to keep him from tearing the chamber apart with frustration. He told himself it was safer than the roof. He lied. Nothing was safe now. Safety was a story they fed themselves like bread. Margaery joined him, cloak drawn tight. Loras stood to her side like a guard carved into flesh. Olenna leaned on her cane, eyes bright, mouth tight, as if bracing for the moment the world would hear what it had been whispering. Jon held Thornfyre on his forearm and felt the dragon tremble with yearning. The night was clear, moonlight silvering Highgarden stone and turning the rose gardens into a dark sea. Torches burned below. Lords lingered in courtyards, restless. Guards watched the walls as if expecting scorpion bolts to fly from darkness itself. Thornfyre looked up. The hatchling's wings spread wider than they had any right to spread so soon. The membranes caught moonlight like dark ruby. Smoke curled from its nostrils in a thin stream, not angry, anticipatory. Jon whispered, "Stay." Because he always did. Thornfyre clicked its tongue, and the click felt like laughter. It launched. This time it did not wobble low between towers. This time it climbed, hard wing beats cutting air, body rising with fierce purpose. It surged upward, higher than the balconies, higher than the rookery, higher than the walls, until it became a dark shape against the moon. A hush fell over Highgarden. Men who had been whispering stopped. Guards tilted heads back. Lords went still. Even ravens in their cages fluttered, restless, sensing a predator older than their fear. Thornfyre circled once above the castle, wings beating steady, smoke trailing in moonlight like a thin banner. The dragon was still small, still a hatchling by the world's cruel standards, but the sky made everything look larger. In that circle, Thornfyre looked like a promise with teeth. Margaery's hand rose to her chest, fingers pressing hard through velvet. Jon did not look at her, but he felt her breath hitch. He knew what she was thinking. Now they will all know. Now the story cannot be held back by words. Olenna exhaled sharply. Well, she muttered, there goes subtlety. Loras's voice was low, tight. Someone outside the walls will see, he warned. Jon's gaze stayed on the sky. Yes, he said quietly. Thornfyre turned Mander and Dove. Fast, sure, back toward Jon. The dragon landed on Jon's forearm with enough weight to make Jon's muscles strain. Heat surged. Thornfyre pressed its snout against Jon's wrist like a claim, then looked out over the castle as if daring it to cage him again. Jon's heart pounded. He could feel the eyes below, thousands of them, turning the dragon into myth in real time. Margaery's voice was soft, almost gentle. Now, she whispered, we must make sure the realm learns the right lesson. Jon looked down at Thornfyre's molten gold eyes and felt the lesson the realm would learn whether it wanted to or not. Fire was free, and men who wanted to own it would burn their hands trying. Thornfyre's circle above Highgarden lasted less than a minute, and it changed everything. That was what Jon understood, watching the dragon's silhouette cut across the moon. How brief a moment could be, and how permanent its consequences. A minute was nothing. A minute was a breath. A minute was the space between one heartbeat and the next. And yet that breath had been seen. Below, men stood frozen in courtyards with their mouths half open. Guards who had marched through raids and put down fires stared upward like boys watching a comet. Lords who had measured power in grain and banners tilted their faces to the sky, and Jon could almost hear their minds turning. If it flies, it can be stolen. If it can be stolen, it can be owned. If it can be owned, it can be used. Small folk gathered behind gates and arches, pressed together, clutching children and torches they had not lit. Some crossed themselves. Some fell to their knees. Some whispered the word they had been hungry for. Dragon. Margaery stood beside Jon on the balcony, cloak tight, her hand at her chest as if keeping her heart from leaping free. Olenna leaned on her cane, eyes bright and hard, as though daring the sky to disappoint her. Ser Loras, down in the courtyard with the guards, looked up with a face Jon had never seen on him. Something raw and helpless, like a man watching a sword fall and not knowing whether it would land in his hand or his sister's throat. Thornfyre turned in the air and Dove, smoke trailing behind like a thin black ribbon. Jon raised his arm, palm out, not command but invitation. The bond inside his ribs tightened like a cord pulled taut. The hatchling landed on his glove with a thud that made Jon's muscles strain. Heat surged through leather into bone. Thornfyre's claws hooked, steadying, and the dragon pressed its snout against Jon's wrist as if stamping a claim. Jon's breath caught anyway, because no matter how many times it did that, no matter how many times it chose him, the act still felt like lightning finding the same place twice. Margaery did not reach for the dragon. She reached for Jon's sleeve instead, fingers pressing lightly, steadying both of them. They saw, she murmured. Jon looked down into the courtyards where eyes stayed fixed on his arm as if it were a banner. Yes, he said, they did. Olenna's cane tapped once, sharp as a gavel. Then we stopped pretending, she snapped. Margaery's gaze flicked toward the sept's direction, toward incense and silver stars. The faith will move, she said quietly. And Oldtown, Olenna replied. And King's Landing, Jon added. A shout rose from the lower courtyard. One of the bannermen, voice tight with fear and awe, demanding answers. Another voice answered, angry. Another began to pray. Sound swelled like water pressing a dam. Margaery inhaled once, and Jon saw the shift in her posture. How she became not a woman watching a dragon, but a ruler watching a realm. We give them a message, she said softly. Now, before the faith writes one for them. Olenna's mouth twisted. And what message is that? She demanded. Margaery's eyes did not leave the crowd below. That Highgarden's fire protects, she said. Not punishes, not devours, protects. Jon looked at Thornfyre, at the gold eyes, the thin smoke, the wings that could not stay folded forever, and felt the difficulty of that lie, because protection required discipline, and discipline was a lesson fire learned slowly. Thornfyre clicked its tongue, annoyed by the noise, and a small curl of smoke rose again. The crowd below flinched, then leaned in, hungry for more. Jon's jaw tightened. "Get them inside," he said quietly. Loras did not need to be told. Jon saw him move below, barking orders, herding guards, clearing courtyards, pushing small folk away with stern words and offered bread. Highgarden began to close itself like a fist again. But fists could not hide smoke once it reached sky. By the time Thornfyre's wings had dried of moonlight, the raven had already left Highgarden. Not from Margaery's rookery, not with Tyrell's seal, not with proper courtesy. It flew from a smaller cage, from a lesser handler, from one of the 100 cracks that fear created in every castle wall. It flew because someone had seen the dragon circle and decided coin would be kinder than loyalty. It reached King's Landing before the next day's sun had burned the morning mist away. Cersei Lannister read the report by torchlight and laughed softly, because laughter was what she used when she wanted the room to believe she was not afraid. "A hatchling," she murmured, eyes glittering. "A hatchling that dares the sky." Qyburn unrolled the crude sketch the informant had included. Ink lines attempting wings, attempting smoke, attempting to capture something men were not meant to own. His mouth curved with delighted hunger. "It flies," he whispered. Tywin sat at the table with a chain bolt laid before him. He did not smile. He did not laugh. He watched the words like he watched an army's formation. "If it flies," he said flatly, "it can be shot." Cersei's gaze snapped to him. "Not with arrows," she said. "Not with arrows," Tywin agreed. His eyes stayed on the bolt's barbs. "With iron, with discipline, with patience." Cersei leaned forward, placing the raven letter beside the bolt as if marrying them. "Patience is boring," she said. Tywin's voice was quiet and dangerous. "Patience is winning," he replied. Qyburn lifted a vial of green wildfire carefully, watching the glow stain his fingers. "It breathes fire," he murmured. "So we answer with fire." Tywin's mouth tightened. "Wildfire is not a toy," he warned. Cersei's smile sharpened. "Neither is a dragon," she said, "which is why it will be mine." She tapped the letter. "The Reach is trying to make it a story of protection, of bread, of Highgarden's fire." Her lip curled. "How pretty." Qyburn's eyes gleamed. "Stories can be rewritten," he said softly, "if the dragon is seen chained." Tywin's gaze lifted. "Do not turn this into spectacle," he said. "We need the Reach intact." Cersei's eyes flashed. "We need it obedient," she snapped. "And obedience is easier when the symbol of defiance is dragged through mud." She turned to Qyburn. "Send more teams," she ordered. "Not to Highgarden's gates, to its roads, to its river, to every place the Rose will be forced to protect again." Qyburn bowed his head slightly. "As you wish," he murmured. Tywin's voice cut in, calm as a knife. "And send coin to Oldtown," he said. "If Leyton Hightower thinks he can steal fire, he will rush and expose his hand. Let him. We can use his greed." Cersei's smile widened. "Good," she said. "Let towers and septons and maesters tear at each other, while lions take the prize." Outside the Red Keep, the city stank and screamed and lived. Inside, a queen and her spider began to move scorpions and wildfire into position, because now the rumor had taken flight, and the sky had become a battlefield. In Oldtown, they read the same news and called it stewardship. Leyton Hightower's hands rested on the table, fingers spread over a map that marked the Mander like a vein. His face remained composed, but Jon would have recognized the tension in it even from 100 miles away, because it was the same tension Jon felt when Thornfyre's wings twitched, the strain of wanting to control what could not be controlled. Ser Baelor stood beside him, eyes bright, jaw tight. The Citadel Courier hovered nearby, trying to look like his chain did not weigh his throat. Septon Halys stood at the edge of the chamber with a silver star in his hand and the self-satisfied stillness of a man who believed righteousness gave him authority over everything that breathed. The dragon flew, Baelor said, unable to hide the satisfaction in his outrage. Highgarden has lost control already. Leyton's gaze stayed on the map. Highgarden has never lost control, he murmured. Highgarden chooses which control it shows. Septon Halys lifted his chin. The Seven have shown us an abomination, he said, voice smooth. The most devout will demand cleansing. The Citadel Courier swallowed. The conclave advises. Your conclave advises whatever keeps its chains warm, Baelor snapped, and the Courier flinched. Leyton finally looked up. His eyes were tired, older than his tower. If you march the faith into the Reach with torches, Leyton said softly, you will not get purity. You will get war. Septon Halys smiled faintly. War purifies, he said. Leyton's gaze hardened. War burns indiscriminately, he replied, and dragons burn most of all. Baelor leaned forward over the map. Then we take it, he said, quietly, before King's Landing pins it, before the faith lights the Reach on fire. We take it by river, as Highgarden hinted. Leyton's expression did not change, but his voice cooled. Highgarden hinted because Highgarden wants you to move, he said. Baelor's mouth tightened. So we move carefully, he insisted. We send one ship, one barge, one hand. We secure it and end the panic. Septon Halys' eyes gleamed. And the faith will bless. Leyton cut him off without raising his voice. The faith will bless whatever wins, he said. It is not blessing. It is opportunism with incense. Septon Halys' smile did not slip. And yet incense moves crowds, he said softly. Leyton's gaze narrowed. Then be careful which crowds you move, he warned. Because if the Reach believes Oldtown is stealing its protection, the Reach will remember Oldtown is not a god. It is a city. Baelor's fist clenched. We cannot let Highgarden become dragon lords, he snapped. Leyton's eyes flicked back to the raven letter describing smoke in moonlight. They already are, he murmured. Whether we like it or not, he exhaled slowly. Send the barge, he said at last. And send Septon Halys' men into the Reach only enough to stir, not enough to spark. If Highgarden falls into chaos, the prize becomes easier. Septon Halys bowed slightly, satisfied. The Courier looked ill. Baelor's smile sharpened. Then we take fire, he whispered. And far away in Highgarden's hidden stone, Thornfyre breathed smoke in sleep, unaware that towers and septons were deciding how to cage him as politely as possible. Highgarden's answer to Thornfyre's flight was not celebration. It was lockdown. Loras doubled guards at every stair, not with loud declarations but with quiet replacement, the way you moved pieces on a board without letting the opponent see your hand. Margaery ordered grain distributed early in the morning, smiling for smallfolk, refusing to let hunger become a weapon the faith could hold. Olenna sent trusted servants through the kitchens and the rookery, counting mouths and keys the way warlords counted spears. And still the faith tried to light a story. They found the agitators in a storage corridor near the East Granary. 3 men in pale robes with silver stars stitched to their sleeves, hands smelling of incense and lamp oil. They had slipped in behind a group of petitioners, heads bowed, murmuring prayers like cover. A torch's flame kissed a tapestry edge. Accident, they would later claim. The cloth caught fast, and the fire leapt like it had been hungry. Servants screamed. Loras appeared like a blade drawn from dark, shoving men aside, cutting the tapestry down with his sword before the flame could climb. The burning cloth hit the stone floor and hissed, and guards stamped it out with boots. Back! Loras roared, voice raw. Back or I'll. One of the robed men raised his hands, face twisted into righteous fury. This house is cursed. He shouted. The 7 demand. Jon stepped into the corridor's mouth with Ghost beside him, and the man's voice faltered as if his throat recognized predators. Margaery arrived a heartbeat later, eyes sharp, face controlled. Olenna followed, cane tapping, expression murderous. Margaery looked at the spilled grain sacks the agitators had cut open, grain scattering across stone like pale seeds. A silver star had fallen into it, half-buried. "You came to burn bread," Margaery said quietly. The agitator's eyes flashed. "We came to cleanse. You came to starve my people so they'd beg you for purity." Margaery cut in, her voice still calm, and that calm made the words heavier. "You came to make torches feel holy." Olenna's cane slammed once. "Idiots," she hissed. "If you must burn something, burn your own pride." The men tried to retreat, but Loras's guards closed in, spears lowered. One agitator reached into his robe and produced a small glass vial, green glow inside. Jon's blood went cold. "Drop it," Jon said, voice flat. The agitator hesitated, then flung it. Ghost launched. The direwolf hit the man mid-throw, jaws clamping onto his forearm. The vial flew wide, struck stone, and shattered. Green flame bloomed small and vicious. For a heartbeat, fear surged. Then Margaery's voice snapped like a whip. "Sand!" Buckets came, Highgarden had learned. Sand poured over green flame, smothering it into hissing darkness. The corridor filled with gritty dust and the sour scent of poisoned fire. The agitators stared, stunned, as if they had expected holiness to make them immune to consequence. Margaery stepped closer, eyes bright and deadly. "Who gave you that vial?" she asked softly. The man-ghost held whimpered. "Septon Halys," he choked. "Oldtown," he said. Olenna's mouth tightened. "There's your priest," she murmured. Loras's sword tip lifted under the man's chin. "You will speak," he snarled. The agitator's eyes rolled, terror taking him. "He said light the bread," he sobbed. "He said blame the dragon, blame Highgarden, make the small folk." Margaery's face went still. "Make the small folk turn," she finished. Jon felt the plan's shape. Burn bread, blame dragon. Make hunger scream louder than loyalty. Make Highgarden the monster. Margaery straightened. "Take them," she ordered, "alive, and bring me Halys's letters." As guards dragged the men away, the corridor stank of singed tapestry and smothered wildfire. Highgarden had stopped a fire, but now it had a name for the hand that kept lighting matches. They laid Halys's letters out like dead rats on a table. Seals from Oldtown, ink too neat for a common septon. Phrases repeated like hymns. Purity, abomination, cleansing, judgment. And beneath the piety, the true language of power. Schedules, routes, names, money. Samwell Tarly's hands shook as he sorted them, but his mind held steady. He read faster than most men breathed. "This one," Sam said, voice tight, "mentions a barge. The tower's hand will reach by river. That's Hightower. And this one mentions the Queen's physician. That could be Qyburn." Orwyn sat chained nearby, forced to lean close and identify handwriting. His scarred fingers twitched, hungry for the illusion of scholarship. His eyes narrowed at one letter and then flicked away, as if seeing an old acquaintance he did not want to name. Margaery caught it. "That one," she said softly. Orwyn swallowed. "Halys," he admitted. "And..." He hesitated. Jon stepped closer, voice low. "And..." Jon pressed. Orwyn's mouth tightened. "A citadel hand," he whispered. "A courier who can pass through gates. Someone with chain access." Olenna's cane tapped once. "So Oldtown's not unified," she murmured. "Good. Institutions always rot from inside." Margaery's eyes were hard. "We need Halys exposed in public," she said. "Not killed in a dark alley. Exposed. If we simply kill him, the faith makes him a martyr and hands torches to fools." Loras's jaw clenched. "I'd still like him dead," he muttered. Margaery didn't look at him. "Later," she said. Jon stared at the map where Sam had marked seps like little knives scattered across the reach. "If Halys can move wildfire into Highgarden," Jon said, "he can move it into any village." Randall's words echoed. Certainty is a luxury. Jon felt the weight of that. Olenna leaned forward. "Then we use their own hunger," she snapped. We send word that Halys has secured something he shouldn't. We let the Faith and the Citadel fight over him." Margaery's mouth tightened. "And while they fight," she said, "we break Oldtown's reach." Jon met her gaze. "How?" he asked. Margaery's eyes flicked to the river ports on the map. "We intercept Leyton's barge," she said. "We capture proof of Oldtown's theft attempt. We show it to the Reach and to the smallfolk. We make the Faith look like it serves towers, not gods." Olenna smiled thinly. "A sermon with evidence," she murmured. "That'll make priests choke." Orwyn's eyes lifted, bitter. "You think truth wins," he rasped. Jon's gaze was flat. "I think hunger wins," he said. "And truth decides whose hunger is fed." Margaery nodded once. "Then we feed the right hunger," she said. "And we starve the wrong one." Outside the war room, Highgarden's torches burned. Somewhere below, Thornfyre shifted in his cradle, wings twitching, as if sensing the map's ink lines were becoming chains the world wanted to throw around him. They caught the Courier before Oldtown's message could become Oldtown's advantage. Rowan riders pinned him at a muddy bend where the road narrowed between hedges and a swollen ditch. Tarly men stepped out from behind trees with spears lowered, faces hard. The Courier tried to turn his horse, but mud held hooves like hands. Loras was there, because Loras had decided he would never again let other men gamble with his sister's safety while he stayed behind stone. His blade sat at the Courier's throat, the point steady despite rain. "Drop it," Loras ordered. The Courier's eyes darted wildly. He clutched a satchel to his chest like a child clinging to mother. The satchel bore a wax stamp, Hightower flame. Jon rode up with Ghost, cloak dark with rain, gaze cold. "Open it," Jon said. The Courier swallowed. "It's," he began. Loras pressed the sword point slightly. The Courier's breath hitched. He opened the satchel. Inside were letters wrapped in oilcloth, sealed with Hightower wax and sept seals. Beneath them, nestled like a serpent in a basket, sat a small glass vial with a faint green glow. Wildfire. Jon's stomach tightened. "Halys," he said quietly. The Courier trembled. "I'm only carrying." "You're carrying poison," Loras snarled. Jon reached in and took the vial carefully, holding it up so rain streaked its glass. The glow looked sickly even in daylight. "Oldtown's hands," Jon murmured. Ghost sniffed the Courier's boots and growled softly. The Courier went pale. Jon looked at the man. "Where is the barge?" Jon asked. The Courier hesitated, and in that hesitation Jon saw the calculation, whether to lie, whether to die. Loras's eyes burned. "Answer," he snapped. The Courier's voice cracked. "Down river," he whispered. "A day, maybe less. A small ship, Hightower men." Jon nodded once. "Good," he said, and the word was colder than mercy. Randall's men bound the Courier and took the satchel. Jon stared at the letters and felt the net tighten. Oldtown was not only watching. Oldtown was moving poison and steel, and now Highgarden would meet it on the river. They turned the river into a throat. Pax to Redwyne knew water the way Randall knew roads. He set barges along the Mander not as a line, but as a funnel, narrowing movement toward a bend where archers could shoot down into decks and men on the banks could hook ropes and drag hulls into mud. Torches were shielded. Voices were low. The night smelled of wet wood and tension. Margaery stood on the bank in a dark cloak, face pale but steady. She was not meant to be here, Olenna had argued. A ruler did not stand near arrows and water. But Margaery's eyes had been hard. If the Reach is being hunted, then its roes will see the teeth. Jon crouched near her with Thornfyre wrapped under his cloak, the hatchling's heat pressing into his ribs. Thornfyre hissed softly, tongue clicking, tasting river air, smelling iron. The dragon did not like water. It liked sky. It liked burning things that deserved it. "Not yet," Jon whispered. Randall's men waited behind reeds and trees, bows drawn, sand sacks piled in the shadows. Rowan riders sat their horses upstream, ready to close off any escape by bank. The river moved dark and fast, carrying reflections of stars like broken glass. Then a lantern blinked once on the water. A signal, faint and deliberate. A barge drifted into view, smaller than a warship, larger than a merchant. Canvas covered its center, and beneath the canvas Jon could see the wrong shape. The rigid angle of an iron limb. Scorpion. Margaery's breath caught. Paxter's face did not move. He raised 2 fingers and his archers lifted bows. The barge drifted closer. Jon felt Thornfyre tense. The hatchling's wings shifted under the cloak, eager. Heat surged. "Easy," Jon whispered, pressing his gloved hand gently against Thornfyre's chest. "Only when I say." Thornfyre clicked its tongue. Impatient, but it stilled. On the barge deck, men moved carefully, heads turning, eyes scanning the banks. They were quiet men.
Professionals.
Men who had been told they were hunting a monster and believed it because believing made killing easier. Paxter whispered, "Now," like a prayer. Arrows flew. The first man on deck fell without sound. The second screamed and went down. The barge rocked as men scrambled, revealing the scorpion's iron limb beneath canvas. The limb rose. A chain bolt slid into place with a metallic click that made Jon's stomach drop. Margaery's voice was almost silent. "Jon." Jon's heart hammered once. He did not pull Thornfyre free. Not yet. Not until he knew where the bolt would fly. The scorpion fired. The chain bolt hissed through air like a snake striking. It flew not at the bank, not at a barge. It flew upward, toward the space above the river, toward where men hoped a dragon would appear because men with scorpions always hoped the world would be obliging. And Thornfyre did appear, because Thornfyre was young and hungry and offended by the smell of iron trying to claim the sky. Jon tore the cloak open as the hatchling surged forward, wings snapping wide, body launching toward the river with a furious churr. For a heartbeat Jon's chest went cold, because the dragon was moving before Jon could fully shape it. Then Jon's voice cut sharp. "Thornfyre up!" The word was not a plea. It was command hammered into sound. The bond tightened like a whip crack in Jon's ribs. Thornfyre's wings jerked mid-flight. The hatchling climbed hard, beating air, and the chain bolt passed beneath him by a hand's breadth and slammed into the river with a splash. Jon's knees went weak with relief he did not allow himself to feel. "Now, wood!" Jon roared, pointing. Thornfyre angled down toward the barge, smoke trailing from nostrils, gold eyes narrowed. It opened its mouth and spat a fierce line of orange-red flame. The dragonfire struck the scorpion's wooden brace. The wood blackened, then cracked, then caught. Iron bands glowed red. Men screamed and stumbled back as heat rolled across deck. A crewman panicked and flung a glass vial, green glow flashing. It shattered near the railing, and wildfire tried to crawl along wet boards like a living curse. "Sand!" Randall bellowed from the bank, and sacks flew, bursting gritty weight onto green flame. The wildfire hissed and died beneath sand, choked by preparation and refusal. Thornfyre swooped again, lower, wings beating hard. Another chain bolt fired. Too fast, too close. Clipped Thornfyre's wing membrane. Not deep, not a severing, but enough. Thornfyre shrieked, high, furious, and the sound made Jon's blood freeze. The hatchling wobbled, wing faltering, and for a heartbeat Jon saw the nightmare. Thornfyre pinned to water, dragged under, chains tightening while men cheered. Jon's voice became a blade. "Thornfyre, back!" The bond snapped tight. Thornfyre resisted, rage thrashing, wanting to burn everything that dared scratch him. Jon felt it like wrestling a storm. "Back!" Jon shouted again, stepping into the river mud, arm out as if he could catch sky with flesh. Thornfyre beat his wings hard, pulling away from the barge, climbing back toward the bank. The hatchling landed clumsily on a low branch near Jon, claws scraping bark, chest heaving, smoke pouring in angry curls. Jon rushed to him, hand steady. He pressed his gloved palm against the torn membrane, warm, wet, already trying to heal. The cut was small. It would scar. It would remind. Margaery's breath left her in a shaken exhale. She had watched it all without screaming, but her face was pale. "They hit him," she whispered. "Yes," Jon said tightly. Paxter Redwyne's men hauled ropes, dragging the barge toward the bank as its scorpion burned and sagged. Archers finished the survivors with brutal efficiency. The river carried blood away quietly, indifferent. Thornfyre hissed, wings shaking, eyes blazing at the burning barge as if wanting to dive back in. Jon leaned close, voice low and intimate. "You live," he whispered. "That's what matters." Thornfyre clicked its tongue, furious, offended, and pressed its snout hard against Jon's wrist, as if demanding Jon remember the insult. Jon did remember, and now so did the dragon. They bandaged Thornfyre's wing in silence. It took 3 men to hold the hatchling still. Jon's steady hands, Rillan's murmured words, and Margaery's calm presence like a wall the dragon's rage could not crack. Thornfyre hissed when the cloth touched the torn membrane, smoke curling, eyes narrowed. But it did not bite. It clung to Jon's wrist and endured. After, when Thornfyre finally settled into a tense half-sleep, Samwell Tarly arrived with a scroll case hugged to his chest like it was fragile glass. His face was pale. His eyes were bright. "I found something," he whispered. Olenna looked up from the corner where she sat like a carved threat. "If it's another prayer, I'll strangle you," she said. "It's not," Sam said quickly. It's old." He opened the case and unrolled the parchment carefully on the stone floor, weighting corners with small stones. The script was not common tongue. It was Valyrian, looping, elegant, sharp. Along the margin was a sketch, a 3-headed dragon in faded ink, drawn with reverent care. Jon's stomach tightened. Margaery crouched beside the scroll, candlelight catching her face. "Where did you get this?" she asked.
"Some swallowed."
"A cache in the library," he whispered. "Maester Lomas didn't know it existed. It was misfiled under relic inventories. It mentions hatchings. And blood." Jon felt the words like a pull. "Blood," he repeated. Rillan's eyes glinted in the candlelight. He did not speak. He did not need to. His silence was confirmation. Sam's finger trembled as he traced a line. "It says," Sam swallowed, then forced the words out, "that eggs quicken only for the blood that remembers flame. That they answer names that aren't written in ledgers." Margaery's gaze flicked to Jon. "Names," she whispered. Jon's throat went tight. He heard again the way Thornfyre had chosen him, how the hatchling's first true gaze had been molten gold fixed on Jon's face, not Margaery's, not Olenna's, as if the dragon had known something Jon didn't. Olenna's voice was sharp, but there was a tremor beneath. "You're telling me," she said slowly, "that our little wolf isn't only a wolf?" Sam's eyes filled with frightened certainty. "I don't know," he whispered. "But, Jon, every account says dragons bond to blood, not to oaths, not to titles." Margaery's voice was soft and dangerous. "Your father never spoke of your mother," she said to Jon. Jon's jaw clenched. Old pain flared, familiar as winter. "No," he said, voice rough. Rillan finally spoke, voice low. "Fire does not lie," he murmured. "It merely reveals." Jon stared at Thornfyre sleeping with a bandaged wing, smoke curling faintly with each breath. The dragon looked small and fragile, and yet it had survived a chain bolt meant to pin legends. Jon swallowed. "What are you saying?" he asked, though he knew. Margaery's eyes held his. "I'm saying," she whispered, "that the realm will not only come for our dragon." She touched the edge of the 3-headed sigil with one finger, careful. "It will come for you," she said. Olenna's cane tapped once, sharp as truth landing. "And it will call it destiny," she snapped. "As if destiny isn't just politics wearing a crown." Jon exhaled slowly, feeling the floor tilt beneath him. He had spent his life being told he was less snow bastard shadow. Now fire and ink and blood were hinting he might be something else entirely, and the weight of that possibility felt like a chain around his throat. Thornfyre's gold eye opened briefly, as if sensing Jon's turmoil. The hatchling blinked once, then pressed its snout against Jon's wrist and settled again. Recognition, devotion, whatever it was real, and it was dangerous.